We move on to our next session of the day, which is the next generation of cybersecurity, autonomous cyber AI and ML. And on this panel, we have a plethora of experts with us. So without further taking time of yours, I would like to call on the honorable panel members in the order of the sequence. Please help me welcome them with big round of applause. Our first panel member, Dr. Sourav Dutta, Executive Director and Head IT from IDBI Bank. Can we have a big round of applause for Dr. Dutta? Dr. Dutta, welcome on the panel and extremely honored to have you here. Kindly take your seat, sir. Joining next, we have Mr. Abhijit P. Shah, CTO from Nippon India Mutual Funds. Abhijit, welcome to the panel. And our pleasure and privilege to have you. Joining next, ladies and gentlemen, we have the honorable moderator of the panel, Mr. Raje, Director and CIO of HealthAssure. A big round of applause for Ninad. Ninad, welcome to the panel and extremely delighted to have you. Joining next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Ranjeeth, Bellary, Partner Forensics and Technology and Integrity Services from Ernst & Young. A big round of applause for Ranjeeth. Ranjeeth, welcome to the panel. And joining next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Sandeep Kamble, CTO and founder of Secure Layer 7. A big round of applause for Sandeep. Sandeep, welcome to the panel. Very excited to have you. So Ninad, all over to you. Fantastic panel and it's going to be a cracking session. So all the best, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. So nice of you. Quite a good welcome for us. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to this India CISO Summit. And it's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this India CISO Summit, which in my opinion is quite a unique concept that brings about the best that data security and cybersecurity has to offer today. And as I was walking into the auditorium, I saw this entire sort of heading which says Cybersecurity India CISO Summit and so on and so forth. So I just kind of remembered and reminisced a quote which was kind of allayed by Steve Jobs, the great Steve Jobs. He says, organizations that have technology have hope, and organizations that have customer experience, brilliant customer experience, it has confidence, it has belief, it has faith. But let me kind of add to this entire adage and to his quote as well. If organizations that have technology have hope and have customer experience which has belief and confidence, the organizations who have technology, customer experience, and along with that security has everything. And that's how security is so important in today's day and age. With that, I'd also like to kind of also I'm sure, it's commonly said that, data is the new oil, new soil, and currently the new trend which is going on which says data is the new blood. I don't know how true that is. But if data is the new blood, then security, it's its pipeline, its arteries, its vein that carries that and allows that data to flow very freely, safely throughout the body, right? And in today's day and age, I'm sure you're aware of this entire new technologies, AI, ML, IoT. You have robotics, you have data centers, you have cloud, and add to that this entire bonhomie about data security and cyber security. But are these really just buzzwords, or is there really a merit associated with this cyber security? Is cyber security really important? Is there any new concept in the cyber security? What are the new concepts? And what are the new challenges that everybody faces while implementing the data security, right, and the cyber security? And I'm sure these are all pertinent questions which we are very eager and keen to know and understand the basis of it, isn't it? And what better way than hearing from the experts who are deeply entrenched and richly experienced in these concepts. And together we have today, ladies and gentlemen, a very expert panel of a set of panelists here who are, who have years and years of hands-on experience in these concepts. And on behalf of India CISO Summit, I'd like to welcome the panelists out here. And without further ado, let's hear and discuss and gain some insights and of course some wisdom from these eminent personalities here. I believe we can probably have a doctor in the house today, right? So probably we can start with the doctor. Is that okay with you, doctor? So Dr. Sourav, and you come from IDBI Bank, which is a very large sort of unit. You must have launched several platforms, including technology, including security. So if you can talk to us about how are AI and ML supporting sustainable, ethical, and forward-looking operations? And I'm sure you must be dealing in this day in and day out. And I'm sure the audience here are expecting a lot of insights from you. Over to you.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you, Ninath, for the question. Really happy to be here. So let me start from the beginning. So AI, as you know, was if you look at the literature, started way back in 1956. It is nothing new, right? So over a period of time, it has matured with the advent of computing power, with the advent of basically semiconductors, which has powered the AI to come to this far, right? We already knew about the techniques long time before, and it's only now that we are implementing that. So if you look at your phone, your device right now, so this device has got a computing power of a supercomputer of 1990s, right? So if you look at IBM 360, you have a power of that in your mobile phone right now with 8 CPUs, right? So 8-core CPU and all of that, right? So that is how the whole thing has expanded. Now on top of that, you have, so AI, we are talking a lot about AI. So what is basically AI? AI is a capability of the machine to mimic the human capabilities, such as recognition, facial recognition or image recognition, natural language processing. So these are the things that human does, and some of these features, not all, but some of these features can be mimicked by the machine to a certain extent, not like driving a car. So it's not a foolproof thing, right? So to a certain extent. We are still maturing, and we are seeing how these things can happen. Now applying this to the other side, which is the security piece, right? So how this pans out is that you look at the threat. A lot of people will talk today, the 2 days, right? So about the threat landscape, the threat vectors, and all of that. So the threat surface. So from there you see that there is a lot of activity going on. And with the COVID, people had a lot of time. So whether you talk about, even if people who didn't want to explore into this domain, they went into that domain. So, and with the free availability of software, low code, no code, anybody can, it's a no-brainer that anybody could run stuff from their compute devices, which are quite fast. So having said that, from a BFSI segment, I just want to say that AI/ML is going to be there. Of course, the data explosion is there, but with that, using techniques is also going to increase the risk manifold. So at the same time, you have AI. AI gives you the solutions, but on the other hand, you have the risks, the reputational risk, the regulatory risk, the legal risk, which are also increasing at the same time. So we need to take care of that. Various techniques, various solutions across the field, still evolving. So you have gamut of solutions which are available, and people in industry are using it. Going forward, we'll see a lot of this consolidating, kind of an AI ops kind of solutions coming up, where you'll see the network ops, the security center ops, all coming to one pane, where you get the multiple events which are there correlated and deduplicated and given to you as a single result to act upon, or maybe acted upon, right? So it can also take decisions, or rather make decisions, right? So those kind of things.
All right, Doctor, thank you so much for the insight. Great insights. You spoke about the benefits of AI, but also you spoke about the risks associated with it. So we need to be very careful about how we deploy the AI as such, and it's not freely available, in fact, and we need to be very, very careful. So we'll come back to you, Doctor, in a bit. We'll kind of shift focus to Ranjeeth now. I mean, Ranjeeth, you are a partner in EY, leading the forensic technology and practice as well for EY, right? If you can talk to us as to how does AI in security help in achieving the much needed adaptability and resilience. I'm sure in day-to-day activities and work, you're quite well ingrained into this, right? So we'll also, of course, like to know about how does one achieve the much needed resiliency as well.
Sure. Thanks, Ninad, and I think wonderful insights, Mr. Dutta. I think, again, I think getting back to the thought of, I think we had some wonderful discussions by previous panels also on the latest threats that we are seeing, right, in terms of cyber attacks. I think it has just proliferated, right, post-pandemic. The attack surface is just increasing and increasing, right, because some of the concepts like people can work from anywhere, people can use their own personal devices to log into company networks, right? It is just making life difficult from an information security standpoint, and it's just going to increase, right? Now, when you look at typically how organizations are trying to safeguard themselves is they have either a security operations center or they have a team which is sort of monitoring these threats for them on a daily basis. Now, typically, if you look at a mid-sized organization, they can see anywhere between 2 lakhs to 3 lakh of security events in a day. Now, how is it humanly possible to detect and mitigate all these threats, right? Obviously, it takes maybe just 1 or 2 of these events to do a ransomware attack in your organization, and that's when it becomes really difficult for organizations, right? So obviously, we need to have humans to monitor the network. However, AI is a platform that can really help in terms of bringing that resilience, in terms of bringing that differentiator in using behavioral patterns to detect these threats and quickly respond. I think the key here is how quickly we can respond to these threats, not just respond, how quickly we can detect, respond, and mitigate these threats, right? So I think there are multiple ways in which organizations are doing. In fact, a lot of these cybersecurity tools that are coming up these days have an element of AI, right? Where they are using AI to see how better they can use technology to quickly detect these kind of events. Now, what is a cyber resilient organization, right? A cyber resilient organization is an organization which can quickly detect these kind of threats. Even if it's a ransomware attack, they are not stuck or disrupted. They can quickly get out of it, quickly come back to business as usual, right? And that's the kind of resilience I think organizations need to build. And I think AI and ML will definitely be a differentiator. I won't say it will be a replacement. It will definitely be a differentiator for a lot of organizations to build those use cases, to train the data, to see how they can really use technology to detect the behavioral way in which a lot of these attacks happen. Like, for example, a lot of attacks are zero-day attacks, where new threats are emerging almost every day, right? So to detect those kind of threats, you will need AI ML, which will sort of train on different kinds of data, take historical data, take current data, train on those, have the right data sets, build those use cases, and quickly be able to detect and mitigate those kind of attacks.
All right, great. Good words, Ranjeeth, Abhijit, as such. And I think you spoke about this entire concept of detection, but you also spoke about, more importantly, the concept of very quick and early response. And I think that is most important as far as the security practices are concerned. And for any organization to be security resilient, I think this is the most important concept. And thanks for sharing that with us. And we'll, of course, come back to you in a short while as well. We'll like to go into Abhishek now. Abhishek, you of course come from the mutual funds and financial world. Abhijit, right? Industry which pride itself in helping people grow their investments and money. We all know, I mean, money is very important in addition to the health and all. But then you help people like us to grow our investments and money. It will be great if you can share and throw some light on how AI can be and used in order to understand human behavior better, to predict mistakes and deliberate insider compromises. So one is the devices, one is the computers, but how about the human behavior? If you can just throw some light on that, that'd be really, really great.
Thank you so much. I think even before I go there, let me kind of take a step back and see how things have changed. I mean, if you really look at it post-COVID, the way we used to work and the way people are working now, they are working from home, the kind of security setup we had in our days, I mean, before or the pre-COVID scenario, we had a lot of security setup with regards to firewalls, internal firewalls, external firewalls, all the privilege access management tools. And now, all of a sudden, the people are going home. And the same level of infrastructure might not be really what they have. But still, the organizations have managed to kind of scale up and come to a level where they are able to provide secured access to their employees, to the core systems, which is very important. Secondly, the way you look at the digital has kind of exploded with regards to, say, for example, IoT. Every place, I mean, even the banks who are lending to some farmers for tractors, they are implanting IoTs on the tractors to just check how is the efficiency and the usage of the vehicle which they have lended. Now, if you look at this device, it does not have a compute power, it does not have a storage. How can you ever think that it will have an antivirus mechanism or a patching mechanism? It's not possible. It's very easy to hack these small devices. And with this, we are talking about cloud, we are talking about hybrid cloud, we are talking about a place where we don't even know where our data is going to reside. I mean, of course, with the financial industry, we are kind of primed with having all our cloud providers hosting their data within India. But for other industries, they don't even know where this is going to reside, how it is going to get encrypted. So net, the point is the surface area for the bad actors is significantly increased. So they have a lot in terms of opportunity. Now, are the conventional ways that we adopted originally are going to help us at this point in time? Absolutely no. And then now your question basically what really would make sense with regards to artificial intelligence. And one is basically a lot of automation with regards to natural language processing, with regards to face detection, with regards to voice analysis, and of course, with regards to automatic threat detection. I think a lot of data is available within the organization with regards to what is happening at what point in day. I mean, if someone is able to really understand these data logs, if they are able to study, I'm not talking about a person, but a system that can really analyze these data logs and understand from node A, for example, I'm just giving an example, from node A to node B at 12 o'clock in the noon, this is the kind of transfer that happens. This is a pattern. So it's a base pattern that every organization kind of puts across, and based on this base patterns, they are able to kind of figure out what anomalies, if at all there are anomalies, they're able to trap those anomalies immediately. I mean, they will, okay, in the same time from A to B, if there is a huge traffic that is going on one fine day, they will be able to trap this anomaly. So I think one is identifying mechanisms. Second is how the machine learning capabilities can help kind of respond back to these incidents. I mean, of course, we do not have, even today, as of today, a fully automated way in which attack can be responded. Now, if you really look at what the bad actors are doing, primarily there are two things. One is use of all the sophisticated mechanisms. In the previous presentation, we saw how they are able to buy things quickly online, and they are able to kind of launch attacks very quickly. But I think more than that, the way these bad actors are integrated in their consortiums, in the dark web. I mean, we as good actors are not integrated. We are not even talking to each other. I mean, we are talking here in the forum. I'm telling what likes me. I mean, what are my likes with regards to cybersecurity? What are my likes with regards to technology? What I am doing? He will talk about what he is doing. But I think, do we have a consortium like the bad actors have? We don't right now, and that's very important as of late. So I think one important thing is certainly the use of AI. I mean, in various dimensions that I spoke of. And secondly, is how do we integrate ourselves together to kind of really stand out? They can fail multiple times. We do not have an opportunity to fail. We cannot fail even once. So I'll hold back my words and come back to you later.
Sure, thank you so much, Abhijit. Great insights. I think the example that you provided about the IoT device embedded within the tractor unit as well. So I had actually the opportunity to deal with MIT very recently, and they were having this program, a conjoined program with the largest hospital in the US, right? So wherein I had the opportunity to see these devices getting embedded within a human sort of an interface, right? And that's where they're checking the human behavior as such. The changes to the pattern, under what circumstances, in what situation, the pattern changes, and so on and so on. I think this is something which is going to come very soon everywhere, whether in India, across the world as well. So that is something which I can relate to when you spoke about the tractor device, IoT device, and so on and so forth. I think we are on the cusp of a major breakthrough. The world is going to see that very soon. So we'll of course come back to you, Abhijit, on that front. We'll shift our focus now to Sandeep. Sandeep, you are the CTO and founder of of your own organization. I believe secure layer 7, and obviously, as the name suggests, it's all about security, right?
True.
And I also heard that you come out with this amazing, sophisticated, advanced technologies and tools which revolve around security, and that helps the CTOs, CIOs, and the CISO community to safeguard their data, their interests, and their organizations as well, right? And it's of prime importance, obviously. So if you can just talk to us about and give us a sense of, are there any tools or technology which user logins can be evaluated? So we all log in into different interfaces, into Amazon, into a lot of web interfaces, app interfaces and all, right? Is there any technology or tool which evaluates the risk based on the patterns, and only then they allow the user to be logged on, right? Otherwise, probably they will not be able to log in itself, right? And can AI and ML help in this? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, certainly. I think even before talking about the tools and all that, why do we need user security? Why do we need focus on authentication? Why do we need to understand why we need to focus on login, right? So specifically, if you talk about insurance companies and banking, finance, or any digital goods selling companies, right? Probably you have two different authentication. One is your end user is logging into your platform. Another one is like your own employees are using some internal platforms for authentication, right? So now I think in the whole conference we are talking about data breaches. We are talking about a lot of ways to get into the security credentials. It's almost 18 billions of credentials sitting around in dark market, right? So a lot of actors has very easy access to the credentials. So having said that, if the credentials are there, definitely to manage all these 18 billion credentials, we need to have a sophisticated solution to figure out if the attacker is, or cyber criminal or fraudster is trying to authenticate to the system, are we able to identify any signals? Is there any signals that we can build to figure out is the authenticated user is a good user or bad user? Can we stop a user at authentication by figuring out the risk score? So let's say if you're authenticating from a Tor IP, can we evaluate that, right? And if it is a Tor, then probably we need to increase the risk of the authentication process itself, right? So how does that attack even happen? So fraudster also, or a attacker also have a very sophisticated credential stuffing attack softwares, which deliberately use various proxies, various IP addresses, or I would say residential or data center IP addresses, and they also have some good behavior to show to the application so that no one will predict that this is the fraudster trying to authenticate to the system, right? So there are various ways or credential stuffing attack, or there are various methods that people or attackers are using to get into the system, right? So when we talk about the signals that we probably need to understand, like we are talking about the devices, right? The folks are from the panel are talked about devices. Have you ever thought about, can we evaluate the device fingerprinting? Within the device, how many browsers our end users are trying to access? Let's try to understand the pattern of our good users. So almost I feel like from my experience, we are using WhatsApp from a very long time. We see that 94% is a good traffic. Only matter of 6% which is a fraudster or a bot traffic which we need to probably evaluate. For that, I feel that we need to do the proper device fingerprinting and browser fingerprinting, and for that, I think there is only one solution available for doing all of this is AI/ML solution that we need to deploy. So I can name the tool like I am itself WhatsApp that probably using for stopping such a fraudster accessing your authentication probably. So we also need to understand the impact. Why do we want to stop at login, right? Just because the internal crown jewels probably the attacker may access, or probably the credit card details may be accessed, or maybe any other fraud in the insurance or banking front that can be possible. Right.
All right, great. I think those are great insights. And now I'm sure you might be wondering if you need any tools this is the chap, this is the man to go to, I'm sure about it. I mean, I'll come to you very, very soon in terms of whether I need these tools or not. But then there are a lot of other avenues in terms of, currently there are trends going on wherein we keep hearing about passwordless authentication. I think these tools and technologies will definitely help in that. And of course, we'll come back to you and discuss more about this. I'll like to kind of now again go back to Ranjeeth. Ranjeeth, you did mention something about 2 or 3 lakh incidents per day. I mean, that's a mind-boggling number, and I'm sure that is going to keep growing on a daily basis, right, across the world. That is very scary. Now, how does one go ahead and secure ourselves against these kind of incidences? And if you can just talk to us about the various AI and ML technologies in security, and how do these help especially in cybercrime prevention, since you're an expert in forensics as well. So how does these help in cybercrime prevention and especially information security management, right? And what are the advice that you would have for our audience here?
Sure. So I think we are already seeing increased use of AML currently in our cybersecurity tools, right? Like, for example, we heard about endpoint detection and response tools, right? Some of them, there is something called extended detection and response that is coming, right? Where there is an element of detecting behavioral patterns in terms of identifying security threats, right? Already we are seeing whenever organizations are deploying different types of tools, whether it is endpoint detection or whether it is server side or firewall side, there is already AI/ML technology being used to sort of detect these threats, right? Specifically to understand the patterns, what kind of zero-day attacks could be there, what kind of vulnerabilities could be exploited, right? I think a lot of phishing, anti-phishing tools are also coming up specifically around business email compromise, because we are seeing that, again, that's a large-scale issue that we see specifically when a ransomware attack happens, right? It's either because of a credential compromise or, a compromise of a user's, overall credentials, right? So that's another use case. There is, increasingly what we are seeing is that hackers are using bots to sort of get into your network, right? AI/ML can be used to detect, those kind of bots quickly, identify what kind of bots these are, whether these are good or bad, and then how they can be, quickly mitigated. Analytics, security analytics is another area where I think a lot of this information is being fed into a centralized system. A lot of analytics is running behind that, and then AI/ML is heavily being used to sort of identify different kinds of patterns there, right? So multiple use cases are coming up. Like, for example, recently I was reading that Google is using AI/ML to sort of detect malware in their endpoints or mobile, sort of systems. In Android operating system also, they're trying to integrate AI and ML because I think increasingly a lot of mobile, attacks that happen, Android is probably found to be a lot more vulnerable, right? So they're trying to use AI/ML to see how they can quickly detect these bad actors, right? So multiple use cases. I think even organizations today are trying to train their people, because I think it's not easy for people to learn this technology. They're trying to train their security analysts in these technologies and how they can quickly detect these threats, quickly mitigate, and then quickly they are able to sort of mitigate the entire risk.
Sure. So in your experience, day-to-day experience, since into forensic, do you happen to deal with a lot of government and the cops and police authorities and all, and especially certain as well? I mean, certain is quite, I mean, they are coming very heavily on all of us, right, including all the businesses and all. So in your experience, is it good, bad, ugly? Are we going to kind of see more of these regulations coming in? Can we keep track and keep abreast of these technologies and these regulations? Is that a possibility?
Definitely not easy, right? I mean, the kind of regulations that we are seeing, specifically with certain, where some of the mandates is reporting within 6 hours of a cyber incident, right? Like, for example, I was in a conversation with a client, and they asked, should I be mitigating the incident in the first 6 hours, or should I be reporting to certain, right? So quite, I mean, it's quite a valid question, right? Of course, I think it's not as if, certain wants to punish organization. It's just that they want to improve the reporting mechanism, because I think what happens is a lot of these incidents go unreported, right? And I think we've had Abhijit discuss about a lot of coordination consensus that we need to build within the community, right? Only when you're able to report these kind of incidents, the different kinds of incidents, organizations will be able to learn from these incidents and then understand that there could be different types of attacks that could be happening. And I think it's all good in good faith. So I think that's the idea and that's the motive. And I think definitely, I think from a regulatory standpoint, we are going to see more and more, especially with whenever, of course, the privacy law comes in. I think it'll get a little bit more difficult for organizations. But I think that's where I think we can see a heavy usage of AI/ML, because without technology, I think humanly it will be difficult for us to sort of automate and then sort of quickly understand what's happening in the network and then respond quickly.
Great, thank you so much. So it is in our interest to make sure that we report all the incidences which are happening in our organizations to the certain, because there's a definitive motive around it. It is basically in the interest of improving and improvising all those activities and not necessarily to clamp down on organizations. I'm sure about it. We'll now talk to Dr. Sourav here. Doctor, you've had a very illustrious career in which you're very richly experienced in all these sort of activities as well. If you can talk to us about your practical challenges that you have faced during implementing this AI/ML technologies within your organization, within all the communities that you have experienced it, right? And how did you overcome these? Probably we can keep it short. We're falling in short of time.
Sure. So for implementing any of the ML or DL solutions, the first thing that you need is data. So the first challenge that you face is data scarcity. That might sound a bit odd, but that is how it is. So whenever you want to develop or implement something, you have to give the data, and data has to be as live as possible, as close to live as possible, right? So that is the biggest challenge in getting any of the ML or DL techniques up and running. That's number one, and of course, if you grade it down, then you have the compute power, the storage, and then followed by the human capabilities. So these are the challenges that we face while setting up an AI. Or AI is the overarching thing, then you have ML and DL, basically machine learning and deep learning systems. So this is how the problems being faced in the real world scenario is basically these. I would just quantify that. And from how to overcome them, then again, that's another big challenge, is that we try to get as close to as data by masking, by doing different things, but it doesn't get close, right? So that's again a challenge. So we ultimately what we do is that we try to mimic as close to production, so something known as pre-prod. So finally, once the model is built, we kind of just dipstick test with it, not run it fully, but do a dipstick test and then go about it. So that's how it's been done in most of the industries.
Great. We'll also obviously like to hear more from you. Unfortunately, we have a paucity of time, but those who have probably they want to kind of go ahead and connect with Doctor here. I'm sure he is going to be around. But I just wanted to touch base on this particular point which you mentioned about data scarcity. Believe me, this is the first time ever I have known and heard from anybody talking about data scarcity. Everybody talks about there is tremendous amount of data. Data is coming from each and every device, and there is a plethora of information which is available. We just need to make sure that we mine it, analyze it. But this is the first time I'm seeing that there is a specific point made of data scarcity, which is pertaining to a specific understanding that data might be there, but there has to be a right set of data at the right point in time as well. So thank you so much. That's a very valuable input from your side, Doctor. That's another reason I keep saying that you're richly experienced. So thank you so much. We'll quickly go to Abhijit. Abhijit, in your opinion, what are the future developments of cybersecurity focused especially around AI and ML? Because there's a lot of advancements happening on a daily basis. Right? So what, according to you, are the future developments?
So one important thing is, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's a very dynamic space. And the evolution of data is happening also. I mean, while there is a scarcity of the good data, but there's a kind of explosion of bad data all around us. I mean,
absolutely.
So I mean, we were talking about petabytes in my 10 years back. We used to think petabytes, my God, such a huge data, and now it's nothing. I mean, now we're talking about zettabytes, and 75 zettabytes in next couple of years, and 185 zettabytes by 2025. I mean, that's a huge thing. But I think, secondly, it's about the hybrid workforce, the hybrid infrastructure. So with this, the perimeter-based security strategy has to move to identity-based security strategy. So which brings to kind of a zero trust kind of a architecture, and I think that's the crux and that's the future. So when it comes to zero trust architecture, every identity has to be authenticated, authorized, validated continuously in real time before he gets access to any of your core resource. And now, well, this is the fundamental of a zero-based, zero trust architecture. But how does this? So how does this kind of gets fueled with AI and ML? Because the fundamental of zero trust architecture is based on the visibility. So this solution needs to have a real-time visibility into the identity of where this person is coming from, the privilege of the device that he's trying to access from, the geolocation where he's trying to access from, and how is the hygiene of the endpoint, whether it has been having the right patching, right antivirus done, the kind of amount of data we are trying to look in real time with regards to one single transaction is huge. And analyzing this data on real-time basis, that is where your machine learning capability and AI will help. So AI will fuel this zero trust architecture, and that's the kind of a future. And of course, zero trust architecture on paper might sound very simple.
Absolutely.
I mean, many people have spoken about it. Many of the product companies have created platforms, but when it actually comes to practically implement it, it's not that straight. So we have a challenge. But there is a line of sight, and I think we have to kind of align with that.
Absolutely, thank you. Well said, Abhijit. In fact, one point that you made is very, very pertinent in terms of there's a definitive shift from the earlier perimeter-based security onto this incident-based security. Very, very important point. And I think this is something which is we need to kind of really take care, look into, implement, analyze, execute, and then of course evolve it further as well. So I think very bright thoughts. Thank you so much, Abhijit. We'll kind of shift and finally we'll come to our product expert here, which is Sandeep. Sandeep, is there or are there any key takeaways for our audience here in terms of how can something help us in our respective journeys? So I'm sure several of our audience here, they must have embarked on the respective security posture journey, security implementation for their organizations as such. So are there any takeaways that you can, or any advices, recommendations that you have for the audience?
True, I think there are a lot of, but I just want to focus on one, respecting time here. So I think our audience is diverse. There are a lot of folks are coming from various different backgrounds. So I think when we talk about AI ML solution, why we deploy? Because we want to predict. But nowadays, if you see in a traditional way, we are more like a reactive. We react immediately, we see some unauthenticated access has been done. We react, someone is trying to access some data, and we got to know from some SIM solution, right? So instead of being reactive, let's be a proactive, respond first, understand how you can predict, and I think predictability can be done by using your AI ML solution. And I think AI ML is not evil, they are here to help us, right? So human is not going to replace by any time unless we are in 2050 with the cyborg. Yeah.
All right, great insights. Thank you so much. In fact, that was the final question. We are running out of time, but I think that was really a power-packed discussion in and around the hottest topic in technology circles, cyber security. And I'm sure you must have already gained a lot of deep insights and experiences also, especially around the strategies, planning, and what do we need to be mindful about when we embark on our respective security journeys, right? And I guess we have some time left with us for taking questions. And I'm sure the panel of experts out here will be more than happy to address those questions. So probably we can have some mic floating around the audience.
Sure.
I can see a hand raised out there.
Yeah, can we have the mic there?
The handsome gentleman out there.
No problem. Okay. My name is Shah. I'm from Synnex. So it's a very latest Twitter from Elon Musk.
Yeah, probably only Nostradamus knows this. However, we have this panel of experts. I will request somebody from the panel to take that and address that question. Doctor, you or Abhijit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, that we can only see, hope that it doesn't happen, right? But from an AI perspective, definitely things are improving on a exponential basis, on a daily note that we are seeing. In fact, the IoT devices that you are talking about, the mobile phone that you're carrying is also an IoT device, right? So the amount of data which is coming in and amount of automation that's going to happen right now, if you see at the iWatch 8 which got launched, right? So I mean, we are going towards automation to such a high level. Ninad spoke about the MIT collaboration that he was talking about with the human getting kind of a cyborg sensors, right? But yes, it's again a debate. So whether the AI is going to win, but yes, human intelligence, nothing to beat human intelligence for long. That's my take on it, right?
In fact, I would like to add here, see, anything that comes onto existence has its two sides, right? Nuclear energy is positive, nuclear bomb is something negative. So even if you talk of Brahmastra, the weapon that it can damage, it can also protect. So even AIs, use it properly, use it for safeguarding yourself, it's certainly going to help. Now, the same tool, when it goes into hands of the bad actors, it's going to damage. So it's about the intent and the intensity of with whom this AI power lies with. I think that's what is going to win.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add on to what he said, Abhishek mentioned is whilst there would be AI, there is a real threat. Probably this particular scenario might sort of, we might see this scenario as well. But believe me, humans have created AI and humans are more intelligent and smart than AI, I'm sure about it. If they can create AI, then we can also make sure that we have solutions for making sure that this does not see the light of the day in terms of the situation that you spoke about. So with that, is there any other question? Just last final question.
I think in the interest of the time, maybe, we'll have to skip one question here.
Sure, so no problem. So what we can do is we have the panel here. You can connect with them offline. But with that, just wanted to thank our panelists here for sharing their experiences and valuable insights within the groundbreaking technologies in the cybersecurity faction as well. And I would also, on behalf of the expert panels, would like to thank all of you all. You've been great audience. You have been you have made it inclusive, made it interactive also. Great question as such. And I'd also like to thank the organizers here for inviting us to the India CISO Summit. With that, I'd like to hand it back to the Master of Ceremonies here.
Thank you so much, Ninad. I think a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful panel. And Ninad wonderfully moderating it as well. Thank you so much. Would like to call on stage Mr. Brijesh Mishra, Sales Head of APAC and Middle East from Synnex, to kindly do the honors of felicitating this wonderful panel. Brijesh, thank you so much for taking time and doing the honors. We'll start with Dr. Dutta first. Followed by Abhijit. Followed by our honorable moderator, Ninad. Followed by Mr. Ranjeeth. And some wonderful gifts, ladies and gentlemen, been given by Insight to all the panel members. Mr. Sandeep Kamble. Would request the panel members to kindly pose for a photograph. Brijesh, if you would join them as well. And ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for this wonderful panel, the next generation of cybersecurity, autonomous cyber AI and ML, Dr. Sourav Dutta, Mr. Abhijit P. Shah, Mr. Ninad Raje, our honorable moderator, Mr. Ranjeeth Bellary, and Mr. Sandeep Kamble. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for enriching us with that wonderful session. And thank you so much, Brijesh, for doing the honors.